Imagine a place where time seems to move more slowly, where life beats to the rhythm of nature, and every corner holds a story forgotten by the modern world. Villages hidden among mountains, surrounded by green fields, or resting on the shores of crystal-clear lakes, small sanctuaries where simplicity becomes poetry. In this video, we will embark on a journey through some of the most incredible villages on the planet. Hallstatt. In the heart of the mountainous region of Salzkammergut, in Austria, squeezed between the calm waters of a crystal-clear lake and the imposing peaks of the Alps, lies a village that seems to have come straight out of the pages of a fairy tale. Hallstatt. With its centuries-old wooden houses clinging to the slopes and perfect reflections on the mirror-like surface of Lake Hallstätter See, Hallstatt holds not only an almost mythical beauty, but also a millennia-old history deeply intertwined with the evolution of European civilization. The origins of Hallstatt date back to the Neolithic period, with evidence of human presence more than 7,000 years ago. But it was around the 8th century before Christ that this village gained a prominent place on the archaeological map of humanity, thanks to the discovery of rich salt deposits, the white gold of antiquity. It was this rare and precious resource that sustained life and fueled trade long before coins had any value. The salt extracted from the depths of the local mountain, the Salzwelten, not only shaped the economy of the region, but also gave its name to one of the oldest cultures of the Iron Age, the Hallstatt culture. This term, still used today by archaeologists worldwide, directly refers to the funerary, artistic and social practices identified in tombs excavated near the village. Inside those tombs, meticulously crafted objects, bronze weapons, decorated ceramics and jewelry speak to us of a sophisticated people with refined aesthetic sense and a complex social structure. Hallstatt, therefore, is not only a place of natural beauty, but also a fundamental link in the chain of European history. Walking through its narrow alleys and cobblestone streets, it is possible to feel the presence of the past. The wooden houses, with their flowered balconies and sloping roofs, were built one atop the other as if seeking to maximize space in a land where the lake and the mountain compete for every inch. The Church of the Assumption, built in the 12th century, dominates the top of the village with its slender tower, guarding one of the most unique cemeteries on the continent. Due to the limitation of space, bodies buried there were exhumed after a few decades, and their skulls were carefully cleaned, painted with floral motifs, and marked with the name of the deceased, then placed in the ossuary of the adjacent chapel. A silent, yet eloquent testimony of the intimate coexistence between the living and the dead in this community. Shirakawa-go. At the foot of the Haida Mountains in Japan lies a village that seems to resist time itself. With its steeply pitched thatched roof houses, built with ancestral technique and artisanal precision, Shirakawa-go transports us to an almost mythical Japan, where the silence of snow is as eloquent as the echoes of the past. The architecture of Shirakawa-go is unique. Known as Gasho-zukuri, literally construction like hands in prayer, this technique stands out for the triangular shape of the roofs, designed to withstand the weight of heavy winter snowfalls. The structures, built without nails, rely on wooden joints and straw ropes to ensure both flexibility and strength. These houses are not just shelters, they are living organisms. Some are more than 250 years old and sheltered for generations. Large families who shared the space with silkworm raising on the upper floor. Every inch was designed to optimize heat, storage, and survival in a harsh environment. For centuries, Shirakawa-go remained isolated from the rest of Japan. Steep mountains and difficult roads kept the village far from modernity. It was precisely this isolation that preserved its culture, architecture, and way of life almost intact, like a reliquary in the middle of the forest. The seasons shape the rhythm of life there. In spring, cherry trees paint the fields with shades of pink and white. In summer, rice paddies reflect the sky like green mirrors. In autumn, maple leaves turn the village into a living watercolor. But it is in winter that Shirakawa-go reaches its fullest expression, covered in snow, illuminated by lanterns, appearing to float between reality and dream. The snow, which for many is an obstacle, is an essential part of Shirakawa-go's identity. It shapes the houses, dictates time, and defines the character of its residents. The white silence of cold days is broken only by footsteps on the soft snow and the distant sound of water flowing through thawed channels. Declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1995, along with its neighbor Gokayama, Shirakawa-go has become a symbol of cultural resilience. But this fame has brought challenges. Mass tourism contrasts with the delicacy of the place, requiring protection measures and careful planning to ensure that the essence of the village does not fade under the weight of cameras and hurried footsteps. Bled, Slovenia. This small European sanctuary is more than just a dot on the map. It is a time capsule where centuries-old traditions, natural beauty, and a spirit of tranquility intertwine to tell a story that spans centuries. The name Bled echoes through the green slopes like an ancient whisper filled with legends and mysteries. At first glance, what impresses most is Lake Bled, with its clear waters of glacial blue reflecting the mountains that surround it. In the center of the lake, as if floating between time and reality, lies the only natural island in Slovenia. On it, the Church of the Assumption rises with Baroque elegance, inviting travelers to ring the wishing bell and make a request to the universe. Around the lake, nature seems to conspire in silence, protecting the peace that reigns over the landscape. Bled Castle, perched on top of a cliff standing 426 feet high, watches over everything with majesty. Its walls, which have resisted time since the 11th century, hold stories of knights, kings, and monks, while offering breathtaking views. From up there, it is possible to understand why this place enchanted Austro-Hungarian emperors and inspired Slovenian poets. But Bled is not made only of ancient stones and serene waters. It pulses with life of its own. The Pletna boats, wooden vessels guided by skilled rowers, glide across the waters as if obeying an ancestral ritual. Each stroke of the oar is a cultural heritage, passed down from generation to generation, keeping alive the identity of a people. Along the shores of the lake, visitors and locals walk through flowered trails, absorbing the scent of pine and the soft sound of the breeze among the leaves. During the summer, the lake invites swimmers, and its waters, though cold, embrace with a refreshing vitality. In the winter, when snow covers the treetops and the lake gently freezes, Bled transforms into a fairy tale setting. This magical village is also known for its most famous dessert, the kremsnita, a cream and puff pastry cake that, although it looks simple, is an explosion of flavor. Served in cafes by the lake, this treat is a celebration of the senses, accompanied by the aroma of Slovenian coffee and the mesmerizing view of the landscape. In Bled, everything seems to coexist in perfect harmony: the old and the modern, the sacred and the profane, the silence of nature and the murmur of enchanted travelers. It is a place where time slows down, allowing moments to be savored as if they were eternal. Every stone, every tree, every reflection on the water tells part of the story. The village is also a starting point for bolder adventures. Trails in the nearby mountains lead to viewpoints that reveal vast and wild panoramas. The Julian Alps offer refuge to those seeking challenges, while Triglav National Park calls the brave to explore its glacial valleys, hidden waterfalls, and enchanted forests. Primošten, Croatia. This charming Croatian village, with its light stone houses and terracotta-colored roofs, seems to have been carved straight from a Mediterranean dream. A peninsula surrounded by the sea, a people proud of their history, and a landscape that hypnotizes even the most restless hearts. Founded in the 16th century as a fortress against Turkish invasions, its name derives from the Croatian word primostiti, which means to connect, a reference to the bridge that originally linked the island to the mainland. Over time, the bridge was replaced by an isthmus, and the village established itself as one of the most beautiful portraits of Dalmatia. Walking through its stone alleys is to dive into a story told by each facade, each flowered window, each silent church. At the top of the hill that overlooks the village, the Church of St. George watches the sea with serenity. Surrounded by a small cemetery with a view toward infinity, this church preserves centuries of faith, resilience, and memory. From the top, the view opens in all directions, a natural amphitheater where the sea is the absolute protagonist. The coast of Primošten is a constant dance of colors and scents. During the summer, the fragrance of pine mixes with the salt of the sea, and tourists surrender to the translucent waters that embrace the white pebble beaches. But it is at sunset that the village reveals its most poetic side. The sun slowly dives into the sea, tinting the sky orange and purple, while the sound of the waves rocks the thoughts. The vineyards of Primošten, known as Bukovac, are an attraction in their own right. Arranged in small stone terraces that defy the arid soil, these vineyards produce one of Croatia's most respected wines, Barbic. More than just a wine, it is an expression of man's struggle against nature, a proof of resilience and tradition. Seen from above, these vineyards resemble a living work of art, a tapestry of stone and green shaped by human persistence. The village also beats with culture and festivities. During the summer months, the streets come alive with folk performances, traditional music festivals, and food fairs. The konobas, traditional Croatian taverns, serve local delicacies such as freshly grilled fish, artisanal olive oil, and ripe figs. Dining in Primošten is more than satisfying the palate. It is participating in a ritual that celebrates the generosity of the sea and the land. Though small, Primošten holds within itself a silent spirituality. There is something sacred in its simplicity, something that transcends the logic of large cities. Perhaps it is in the sound of the waves crashing against the ancient rocks, or in the silence of dawn when the stars shine as they never do in urban skies. Here, the connection with the essential is inevitable. Kokum. Imagine a place where time seems to slow down, where every stone in the streets carries centuries of history, and where the soft murmur of the Moselle River cradles the memories of an enchanted past. This place exists, hidden among green hills and endless vineyards. It is the village of Kokum in the heart of Germany. Located in the state of Rhineland-Palatinate, on the banks of the Moselle River. This small gem with just over 5,000 inhabitants attracts travelers in search of authenticity, beauty, and a touch of magic. Dominating the horizon, the majestic Reichsburg Cochem rises above the landscape like a guardian of time. Built in the 11th century and destroyed by the French in 1689, the castle was rebuilt in the 19th century by a German businessman passionate about medieval romanticism. Today, its Gothic towers and ornate halls tell stories of emperors, knights, and revolutions, while offering breathtaking views of the Moselle Valley. Descending from the castle toward the village center, visitors find themselves in a succession of narrow alleys, lined with meticulously preserved half-timbered houses. Each colorful facade, each flower-adorned window, reveals the soul of Cochem, a warm, traditional soul deeply connected to its land. The central square of the town, the Marktplatz, is an invitation to enchantment. There, outdoor cafes and cozy taverns share space with the old Baroque town hall, built in 1739. In its fountain, carved with symbols of wine and harvest, echo laughter and conversations in multiple languages, a cosmopolitan harmony in the serenity of the German countryside. But Cochem does not live only from its visible history. There is something more, something that can be felt. It is the scent of ripe grapes in the vineyards that surround the village in every direction. It is the sound of the bells of St. Martin's Church resonating at dusk. It is the unmistakable flavor of Riesling, the white wine that made this region famous throughout the world. Winemaking is, in fact, the backbone of local culture. Since the time of the Romans, who already cultivated grapes on the slopes of the Moselle, until today, the vintners of Cochem have perfected the art of transforming soil, sun, and tradition into bottles that tell stories. Stories of family, of hard work, and of celebrations that span generations. During the summer, Cochem blossoms with festivals. The streets fill with folk music, traditional costumes, and stalls where specialties such as Flammkuchen, bratwurst, and of course, the local wine are served. The Moselle Wine Festival, held every year in August, is one of the most anticipated moments, attracting visitors from across the continent. Henningsvær, Norway. North of the Arctic Circle, where the Norwegian fjords meet the Norwegian Sea and the wind carries stories of sailors and ancestral legends, rests a village that defies time, logic, and geography itself. Henningsvær. Like a hand-painted picture, spread across small islets connected by narrow bridges, Henningsvær is one of the pearls of the Lofoten archipelago. A village that seems to float upon the ocean, surrounded by dramatic mountains and crystal-clear waters, where the sky changes color at every moment, reflecting the moods of an untamed nature. With a population of fewer than 500 inhabitants, Henningsvær is the perfect definition of harmonious isolation. Its origin dates back to the 17th century, but its importance is rooted in even more ancient times, when Nordic peoples came to these icy waters to fish the abundant Arctic cod, the legendary skrei. For centuries, the village lived to the rhythm of fishing. Each winter, boats returned to the harbor loaded with the fish that sustained entire communities. And even today, the smell of dried cod lingers in the air, reminding us that, despite the changes, the essence of Henningsvær remains true to its roots. The giant wooden racks, called gjell, dominate the coastal landscape. It is there that cod is hung in the Arctic wind to dry naturally. This millennia-old tradition turned Henningsvær into one of the most important centers of dried fish production in the world. But Henningsvær is much more than a fishing port. It is a surprising meeting point between tradition and modernity, between wild nature and contemporary art. In recent years, the village has become a haven for artists, photographers, writers, and travelers in search of inspiration and authenticity. Art galleries have appeared in old fishing warehouses. Minimalist cafes occupy wooden buildings that have withstood generations of storms. And the famous Caviar Factory, a contemporary art gallery installed in a former caviar factory, attracts global attention with daring exhibitions that contrast with the ancestral setting. In the center of the village, small, colorful houses cluster together, as if seeking warmth from one another. They are simple dwellings, but full of history. Their facades face the sea and the wind with the same dignity as the fishermen who live in them. Each red, blue, or green roof is a chapter of the local story. Lauterbrunnen. In a deep valley carved by the ancestral forces of time, surrounded by vertical cliffs that defy logic and physics, rests a village that seems to have been lifted directly from an alpine fairy tale. Lauterbrunnen, a name that in German means loud springs, not only describes its nature but also celebrates it. With its 72 streams and waterfalls that tumble from the slopes like veils of liquid crystal, Lauterbrunnen lies in the heart of the Bernese Alps in Switzerland. This village, which for centuries was a refuge for shepherds, poets, and travelers, still preserves today the pure and almost sacred essence of raw alpine nature. The constant sound of falling water echoes among the cliffs like an ancestral song, sung by generations of mountains. Among all the waterfalls that adorn this valley, one stands out: Staubbach, a curtain of mist plunging from nearly 985 feet in height. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, the great German poet, was so fascinated by this wonder that it inspired one of his most emblematic poems. As the sun breaks through the clouds and touches the green meadows, the colors of Lauterbrunnen light up in a vibrant palette. The dark wooden cottages with flower boxes filled with bright red geraniums coexist in perfect harmony with the surrounding landscape. It is as if nature and architecture had forged a pact of eternal beauty. The history of this village does not begin with tourists and train tracks. Long before digital cameras and social media, Lauterbrunnen was already a place of spiritual and symbolic meaning for the peoples inhabiting this region. For centuries, pilgrims crossed this valley in search of peace, silence, and answers. Its geographical isolation became a sanctuary. But Lauterbrunnen does not live only from its past. Today, it is a living bridge between tradition and modernity. The cowbells still echo through the fields as they did 200 years ago, but now mingle with the subtle sound of cable cars climbing toward Wengen and Mürren, two villages even higher up, where time seems frozen. In the winter, Lauterbrunnen transforms. The green meadows give way to the pure white of snow, and the valleys fill with skiers gliding down the slopes with an almost choreographed lightness. In the summer, it is the hikers who take over the trails, seeking to reach the peaks that rise like silent sentinels. Giethoorn, Netherlands. Giethoorn, the Venice of the Netherlands, rests quietly in the heart of the province of Overijssel. like a secret kept among reeds and wooden bridges. Here the streets are liquid, the paths are made of canals, and cars give way to small boats that glide in silence. In Giethorn there is no place for haste. Every journey is an invitation to contemplation. Every curve of the canal reveals a new living painting of flowers, thatched roof houses, and meticulously cared for gardens. Founded in the 13th century by fugitives from the Mediterranean, Giethorn was born from refuge and nature. The first inhabitants dug the earth in search of peat, the fossil fuel that powered life at the time, and in doing so, carved out the canals that today define the village's landscape. From this accidental extraction was born an aesthetic that centuries later would enchant the world. There are no horns, traffic lights, or asphalt. Instead, arched bridges, more than 170 in total, connect the small artificial islands that support the houses. Bicycles rule the edges, accompanied by the soft sound of boat paddles moving slowly, as if the village itself were breathing in an aquatic rhythm. The houses of Giethorn look as if they came straight out of a fairy tale. Covered with thatched roofs, surrounded by hydrangeas, lavender and tulips, they proudly and carefully preserve traditional Dutch architecture. The gardens are almost theatrical, where every flower, every bush seems to have been placed by a poetic hand in perfect harmony with the water that surrounds them. The residents, heirs of centuries of tradition, live with a sophisticated simplicity. They are farmers, artisans, hosts, guardians of a lifestyle that defies the fast pace of the modern world. In Giethorn, every season of the year is a spectacle of its own, reflected in the calm waters that mirror the sky. In winter, the village transforms. When the cold tightens and the canals freeze, gondolas give way to skates. Children and adults glide over the ice as if dancing on mirrors, while the white mist embraces the bridges and trees in a silent hug. It is the portrait of an eternal Christmas, where the cold is warmed by the glow of tradition. In spring, colors explode. The fields around the village come alive with tulips, daffodils, and hyacinths. The waters of the canals reflect the blue of the sky and the vibrant green of the new leaves. It is when Giethorn blooms, not only in nature, but also in the spirit of its visitors, who arrive seeking peace and enchantment. Chefchaouen, Morocco. Founded in 1471 as a small fortress by Muslims fleeing the Spanish Reconquista, Chefchaouen soon became a refuge. It was a place of resistance, but also of peace. Muslims, Jews, and later Christians found there a space where their cultures could coexist. This coexistence shaped not only the architecture of the village, but also its spirit. But what truly turns Chefchaouen into something almost ethereal is its color. Blue, present on every wall, every stair, every facade. There is no consensus on the exact reason for this choice. Some say the blue keeps mosquitoes away. Others claim it symbolizes the sky, paradise, a constant reminder of the spiritual. There are also those who believe it was introduced by Sephardic Jews who found shelter in the city during the 15th century. What is known for sure is that the blue of Chefchaouen became identity. More than just an aesthetic, it became a state of mind. Walking through the alleys of the Medina is like sailing in a calm sea where sounds are muffled by the celestial tone of the walls. The blue soothes, hypnotizes, embraces. The Medina, the historical center of the city, is a labyrinth of narrow passages and steep steps. Every corner hides a surprise: a carved portal, a fountain of crystal-clear water, a woman selling warm bread, a sleepy cat that seems part of the scenery. Time there is relative. There is no hurry. Everything happens at the rhythm of the mountain. The Rif Mountains surround Chefchaouen like silent guardians. From above, the city seems to float in a bluish mist. In the early hours of the morning, the fog slides down the slopes like dancing veils, and the soft sunlight touches the ceramic rooftops with a discreet golden glow. It is in this moment that Chefchaouen reveals its most subtle magic. The village's relationship with nature is profound. The inhabitants live in harmony with the cycles of the seasons, with the songs of birds, with the silence of stones. Many of the products sold in the souk, the local market, come from the very land. Olives, figs, honey, aromatic herbs. The handicrafts also carry this connection. Tapestries dyed with natural pigments, ceramics patiently molded, hand-embroidered fabrics. And there is something more, something unseen but felt, a silent energy, perhaps carried by the prayers that echo from the mosques 5 times a day, or by the calloused hands that mold the clay. Chefchaouen is a sanctuary of simplicity, a place where the sacred and the everyday meet without ceremony. Cusco. Known as the navel of the world by the ancient Incas, this small Peruvian city is much more than a starting point to Machu Picchu. It is in itself a living testimony of a civilization that ruled vast stretches of South America before the arrival of the Spanish conquerors. For centuries, Cusco was the spiritual, political, and administrative center of the Inca Empire, the Tahuantinsuyo. Every stone, every street, every temple tells the stories of a people who saw the world as a sacred connection between the sky, the earth, and the underworld. From here began the paths that united the 4 great regions of the empire, known as Suyos. Cusco was not just a city, it was the center of a carefully organized universe. At first glance, Cusco looks like a peaceful village with its colonial buildings, narrow stone streets, and a climate that shifts between the freshness of mornings and the gentle warmth of sunny afternoons. But walking through its streets, it is impossible not to feel the presence of the past. Beneath the foundations of churches erected by the Spaniards lie the cyclopean bases of Inca temples, built with stone blocks perfectly fitted together without mortar, defying time and earthquakes. The chroniclers of the Spanish conquest were amazed by Incan engineering. The Temple of the Sun, the Coricancha, was entirely covered in gold. The Spaniards, in their thirst for wealth, stripped the precious metal, but could not erase the splendor of the construction. Even today, the original walls remain, resisting time and silently telling the glory of the children of the sun. The inhabitants of Cusco, the Cusqueños, carry in their blood the legacy of their ancestors. The Quechua language is still spoken by many, especially in nearby communities, and Andean traditions remain alive in rituals, festivities, and in the way they relate to nature. For them, Pachamama, Mother Earth, is not a metaphor. She is a real presence that must be respected and honored. Throughout the year, the village becomes a stage for vibrant celebrations. One of the most impressive is the Inti Raymi, the Festival of the Sun. Every year on the winter solstice, thousands of people gather to relive the Inca ceremony that gives thanks to the sun god for the harvest and for life. Dressed in traditional costumes, to the sound of flutes and drums, participants recreate one of the most important ceremonies of the pre-Columbian era. The geography of Cusco is, in itself, a masterpiece of nature. Surrounded by majestic mountains, it rests at more than 10,800 feet of altitude. Breathing here requires some effort, but also invites introspection. The sky, a deep blue, seems closer, and in the distance, snow-capped peaks silently observe the life that pulses in the valleys. San Miguel de Allende. In the heart of colonial Mexico, among gentle hills and valleys that hold centuries of history, lies a village that seems suspended in time, San Miguel de Allende. With its cobblestone streets, colorful facades, and churches with majestic towers, this cultural refuge in the state of Guanajuato is more than a tourist destination. It is a living mosaic of art, spirituality, and tradition. San Miguel de Allende did not begin grand. Founded in the 16th century as a strategic point on the silver route, the village began as a modest trading post. But time, always patient, shaped its character with layers of history and beauty. Its name is a tribute to two men, the Archangel Michael, symbol of protection and faith, and Ignacio Allende, hero of Mexican independence. The first impression of San Miguel is always marked by the grandeur of the Parroquia de San Miguel Arcángel, with its neo-Gothic towers rising like pink flames against the blue sky. Inspired by the great European cathedrals, this church is the spiritual and visual heart of the city. By day it enchants with its elegance. By night, illuminated, it looks like a sanctuary of dreams. But San Miguel de Allende is made of many hearts. In its plazas, in its markets, and on its silent corners, a serene energy pulses, welcoming and transforming. Artists, writers, and seekers of the soul have found a home here, drawn by its almost magical aura. It is no wonder the village was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The sounds of San Miguel are a discreet and enchanting symphony. Bells tolling in the distance, laughter echoing in the alleys, the clinking of cutlery in open-air cafes, and the far-off strum of a guitar played by hands that know ancient stories. Time does not rush here, it strolls. And in that rhythm, the visitor loses themselves only to be found again. In the golden morning, sunlight spills over the adobe facades, painted in tones of ochre, terracotta, and yellow. The doors, many of them carved in wood, hide workshops, galleries, and houses that look like living museums. Every house has a soul, every alley a legend, and all paths seem to lead to a place where the spirit finds rest. Art is everywhere. On walls that display vibrant murals, in markets that sell hand-painted ceramics, in wrought-iron sculptures decorating secret gardens. San Miguel is a creative refuge. Since the 1950s, artists from all over the world have arrived here in search of inspiration, and they found it. Villa de Leyva. This village, nestled in the heart of Colombia, is not just a point on the map. It is a reliquary of centuries, a place where stone, lime, and wood tell more than 1,000 books. Founded in 1572 by order of the President of the New Kingdom of Granada, Andrés Díaz Venero de Leyva, the city was born as a refuge for the Spanish elite. Its name honors its founder, but its soul goes far beyond one man. Villa de Leyva is a living testimony of a vibrant past that echoes in every uneven stone street, in every whitewashed facade, in every wooden balcony darkened by time. Walking through its streets, one feels the weight of history. The sound of footsteps over the stones, echoing between colonial buildings, seems to awaken memories of bygone days. It is as if every corner holds a secret, every square a whisper of old meetings and farewells. At the heart of the village lies the imposing Plaza Mayor. With its 150,000 square feet, it is considered one of the largest colonial squares in Latin America. It is not just an open space, it is a stage where the theater of local life unfolds. In the mornings, the sun casts soft shadows on the facades, while locals chat unhurriedly, as if time does not touch them. In the afternoon, the sound of carts, the songs of birds, and the murmur of tourists compose a simple symphony. At night, when the yellow light of colonial lamps bathes the square, there is an almost mystical beauty. It is easy to imagine colonial horsemen riding through the shadows, or to hear the distant clinking of swords and armor. But Villa de Leyva is not only its architecture, it is also its nature. Surrounded by mountains, caves, and valleys, the region holds landscapes that mesmerize. The desert of La Candelaria, with its ochre tones and sparse vegetation, contrasts with the lush greenery of the neighboring valleys. It is a contrast that both enchants and surprises. In its surroundings are fossils that date back millions of years. Villa de Leyva is also an open-air natural museum. The Kronosaurus, a prehistoric marine reptile, is perhaps its most famous fossil. Discovered in the outskirts of the village, it rests today in a museum that is, at the same time, a testimony of science and of time's patience. Essaouira. Along the Atlantic coast of Morocco lies a city that pulses with the rhythm of time, Essaouira. Once called Mogador, a port of sailors and cradle of cultures, Essaouira breathes history in every narrow street, in every white and blue corner, in every note of music echoing through stone arches. Essaouira was not created, it was revealed. Revealed by the constant wind, by the watchful eyes of Phoenician, Roman, and later Portuguese merchants who docked there, fascinated by its strategic position and indomitable spirit. The city as we know it today was redesigned in the 18th century by Sultan Mohammed bin Abdallah, who hired European engineers to shape it as a meeting point between Africa, Europe, and the Arab world. Approaching the Medina, recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the visitor stands before imposing walls, stone bastions that guard a labyrinth of traditions. Entering its gates is crossing an invisible frontier, where time flows slowly, where the scents of spices, fresh fish, and thuya wood intertwine in an invitation to sensory delight. The light in Essaouira has a magical quality. At sunset, the sky merges with the sea in amber tones, while seagulls draw silent circles above. The city seems suspended between dream and wakefulness. Its white houses with blue windows reflect an aesthetic of resilience and freshness, a choice made not only for beauty, but also as protection against the summer heat and the ocean's salt. At the heart of the city, markets teem with life. Voices mingle in Arabic, French, Berber, in a polyphony that recalls desert caravans and merchant ships that once made Essaouira one of the most vibrant gateways to the African interior. Stalls filled with ceramics, carpets, amber and silver jewelry stand side by side with painting studios and musical instrument workshops. Essaouira is also music. It is Gnawa. It is trance. It is the beat of the drum and the lament of the gwembri, an ancestral string instrument that seems to draw sounds from the desert itself. The Gnawa festival, which annually transforms the city into a multicultural stage, is more than an event. It is a rite of fusion, a meeting of African, Arab, and Western traditions. In the streets of the Medina, Musicians gather in improvised circles. Children dance. Tourists watch in reverent silence. There is a spirituality in the music of Essaouira, a bridge between worlds, a form of healing and memory. The heritage of the enslaved people from sub-Saharan Africa finds voice and permanence in this corner of Morocco. Colmar. In the heart of Alsace, between vineyards that sway with the wind and mountains that whisper secrets of centuries, rests a village that seems sculpted by the hands of fairy tales, Colmar. This small French jewel, with its colorful half-timbered houses, serene canals and cobblestone streets that once carried the footsteps of kings, merchants and artists, is more than just a tourist destination. Colmar is a time capsule, a place where history intertwines with the present, like the vines that climb the facades of its centuries-old buildings. Founded during the Middle Ages, Colmar is mentioned for the first time in historical records in the year 823. Since then, it has been the stage of territorial disputes, a commercial hub, and a source of inspiration for artistic movements that changed the face of Europe. But despite wars, political transformations, and the inevitable changes brought by time, Colmar endured. And more than that, it flourished. Every corner holds a story. Every window seems to watch the world with eyes from another era. Perhaps that is why Colmar is often called the most German of French cities. Its architecture and traditions reflect centuries of Germanic influence, especially during the periods when Alsace shifted hands between France and Germany. Walking through Colmar is like leafing through a book of illuminated manuscripts. At every step, one discovers Gothic churches, like the imposing Collegiate Church of St. Martin, built between the 13th and 14th centuries, which still today rises as a witness of faith and perseverance. But Colmar does not live only from its religious past. The Little Venice district, or La Petite Venise, is an ode to romanticism and to the harmony between man and nature. The canals that meander between the houses seem to reflect not only the buildings, but also the tranquil soul of the village. There, small boats glide slowly, guided by locals who know every inch of the water, like one who reads an ancient poem. It is in this setting that many feel time slow down, inviting contemplation. But Colmar is not only a reliquary, it is also the birthplace of great names. It was here that painter Martin Schongauer was born, one of the forerunners of Renaissance engraving, whose work influenced none other than Albrecht Dürer. Carmel. On the rugged coast of California, where the Pacific crashes with both fury and tenderness against cliffs shaped by time, there lies a village that defies the standards of modernity and embraces the charm of the past. Its name is Carmel by the Sea. Officially founded in 1902, Carmel was not born like other American cities. It was dreamed into existence by artists, writers, bohemians, and visionaries. People who sought more than a house. They sought a way of living in harmony with nature, with art, and with the soul. Walking through Carmel feels like stepping into an impressionist painting. The streets have no traditional lampposts. The sidewalks are uneven, lined with cypress trees twisting like living sculptures. And by choice, there are no numbers on the houses, only names such as Sea Urchin or Sunset House. This decision to avoid urban conventions reflects the rebellious and romantic spirit of the village. In Carmel, you will not find fast food franchises, billboards, or traffic lights. What you will find is silence, beauty, and an almost mystical atmosphere. Many came to Carmel in search of creative refuge. Poet Robinson Jeffers built with his own hands his stone house known as Tor House, today a monument to poetic sensibility and respect for the local landscape. And it was in Carmel that visual artists found unique light, forms, and colors. The village's art gallery is one of the most respected in the United States, and events such as the Carmel Art Festival celebrate this aesthetic heritage. But perhaps Carmel's most famous resident was Clint Eastwood. The actor and director not only chose the village as his home, but also served as its mayor in the 1980s. His mandate lasted only 2 years, but his passion for preserving the local identity left lasting marks. Carmel is also known for its mission church. Founded in 1771 by Spanish Franciscan friars, the Mission San Carlos Borromeo de Carmelo is one of the most beautiful and important vestiges of California's colonial period. Colonia del Sacramento. At the far southwest of Uruguay, on the banks of the majestic Rio de la Plata, rests a village that defies time, Colonia del Sacramento, a name that echoes through the centuries, carrying the marks of battles, cultural exchanges, and a persistent tranquility that time has not been able to erase. Founded in 1680 by the Portuguese in a region already coveted by the Spanish, Colonia del Sacramento became from the very first day a disputed territory. Its colonial stones witnessed the blood of armies, the footsteps of explorers, and the silence of dawns that followed conquests. It was a strategic point. Facing Buenos Aires, Colonia was both a threat and a promise. A threat to the Spanish, who saw in that fortress a spear thrust into their South American domain, and a promise to the Portuguese, who envisioned there the control of trade in the Rio de la Plata estuary. The walls raised by the Portuguese with rough stones and calloused hands still guard the spirit of that clash. In every crack of the rocks, there is a story. In every moss that grows, a chapter of the past. Walking through its cobblestone streets, the visitor does not follow only a physical path. They cross through time itself. From the 17th century to the present day, Colonia del Sacramento is an open book. The low facades, the wooden windows, the flowered balconies, everything seems carefully preserved by invisible hands that understand the value of memory. And it is precisely this memory that gives the village its almost mystical aura. During the day, the southern sun pours golden light over the old houses, as if caressing every brick with respect. At night, the yellow glow of the ancient lampposts creates silhouettes that dance between shrubs and narrow alleys. Colonia del Sacramento is not only a historical heritage, it is a living testimony of the cultural complexity that shaped South America. Portuguese, Spanish, indigenous peoples, Africans. Each one left their mark, their voice, their color. The result is a mosaic, a reflection of a multiple identity, rich and at times contradictory. The architectural influences of the village are an example of this. The juxtaposition between the irregular layout of Portuguese streets and the Cartesian geometry of the Spanish reveals a village made of layers that do not cancel each other out, but complement one another. That tell in stone and lime the story of a continent in construction. In the centuries that followed its foundation, Colonia del Sacramento changed hands many times, at times Portuguese, at times Spanish, and with every transition it gained and lost. It rose and was plundered. It was a symbol of power and of fragility. But unlike so many cities destroyed by time or by man, Colonia endured, perhaps because it understood that its strength did not lie in conquering, but in preserving, in keeping alive the memory of what it was, to teach those who are yet to come. Today, Colonia is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a title that does not give it only prestige but also responsibility, that of being the guardian of a past that is at the same time local and universal. Rothenburg ob der Tauber. Founded in the 12th century, Rothenburg was from the beginning a strategic jewel. Its location atop a hill guaranteed natural defense, and its fortifications, raised with Germanic precision, transformed it into a free imperial city under the direct protection of the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. Crossing its gates, the visitor enters into a suspended time. The half-timbered houses, with colorful facades and flowered windows, seem to whisper forgotten stories. And every corner reveals a scene that could have been painted by a Renaissance master. Rothenburg does not merely preserve its medieval architecture, it lives it. It is a village where time has not only passed, but remained. The steep roofs, the stone gargoyles, the coats of arms on the doors, everything invites contemplation. But the history of Rothenburg ob der Tauber is not made only of beauty. It is also a tale of resistance and survival. During the 30 Years' War, the village was besieged by the troops of General Tilly. And it was in that dark moment that one of the city's most emblematic legends was born, that of the Master Draft. Tradition tells that the mayor of the city, in a desperate attempt to save Rothenburg from destruction, accepted the general's challenge to drink more than 3 quarts of wine in a single gulp. Against all expectations, he succeeded, and the village was spared. The story became a symbol. Every year during the Meistertrunk festival, the scene is reenacted with period costumes, music, and parades, a reminder that at times the destiny of a city can depend on a single act of courage or of thirst. During World War II, Rothenburg once again faced the threat of destruction. Allied bombings struck part of the city, but in a rare gesture, an American officer, enchanted by the history and beauty of the place, prevented a complete assault. It was one of the few moments when art and memory overcame war. What remained was restored with almost surgical precision, every stone replaced with care, every wall rebuilt respecting the original traces, because in Rothenburg, restoration is an act of reverence, a commitment to the centuries that shaped its streets. Today, walking through Rothenburg ob der Tauber is to take part in a ballet of ancestral images and sounds. The clinking of horseshoes on tourist carriages, the sound of church bells, the aroma of freshly baked bread rising from bakeries that still keep centuries-old recipes,